The second poem, Death Be Not Proud, written by John Donne. Metaphysics is a term coined by Samuel Johnson. If you don't know what is sonnet, it is 14-line poem. And looking at those sufferings, John Donne might have composed this poem. John Donne could not be killed because he has a life after death. Hello, hi, namaste and welcome to Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. I am Nandakishore, Faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, MYSURU. In my previous session, I had discussed about the poem Polonius' Advice to his Son, which is prescribed for B.Com and B.B.A first semester MYSURU University students. And in today's session, I am going to discuss about the second poem, Death Be Not Proud, written by John Donne. Let us start with today's session. We should always know about the background of a poem, or it could be the prose, or for that matter, it could be any literary piece. And in this poem, let us see the background of the poem. This poem is composed by John Donne, and it is believed that the sonnet 10, this is not sonnet X, it is the Roman number sonnet 10 out of 19 poems which he composed, or 19 sonnets which he composed. And John Donne belongs to metaphysical poets group. What is this metaphysics? Metaphysics is a term coined by Samuel Johnson, and according to this term, it is believed that metaphysical poem dealt with intellectual concepts, images, paradox. Paradox is opposites, and they go on dealing with complicated things in simple. Don't get into deeper meaning for time being, or let us say the simple meaning would be where they dealt with intelligent concepts, images, paradox, which is nothing but opposite concepts, and they dealt with lot other complicated concepts. And this metaphysics came into existence in 17th century English literature during the time of, let us say, Elizabethan era. It is included as one of the 19 sonnets that comprises Donne's holy sonnets or divine meditations. So this is the main heading, right? Under this main heading or the concepts, Death Be Not Proud is the 10th sonnet. And usually the sonnets will just take the first line as its title. Right? As we go on to the poem, we'll get to see what is the title of the poem and why the sonnets prefer taking the first line as its title among his best known works. So this is about a brief introduction about Johnson and the poem. Now let us straight away get into the poem explanation. Let me tell you before I proceed further, I am not here to give you the complete detailed explanation about the poem. I am just going to narrate or tell the story or tell what is required for the first semester students of MYSURU University. The very first line, if you see, Death Be Not Proud. This is taken as the title of this poem, but it is sonnet 10, the Roman number. And if you don't know what is sonnet, it is 14-line poem. It is just a 14-line poem and it is called a sonnet. And usually sonnet will have a rhyme scheme. Let me just talk about the rhyme scheme as well in simple here. The very first line, Death Be Not Proud, though some have called thee. And in my previous class, with respect to Polonius' advice to his son, I have already taught you that thee, thy, and thou. Right? Thee is you, thy is your, and thou is again you. So be careful. Death be not proud, though some have called thee, some have called you mighty and dreadful. John Donne says, my dear death, he is giving life to inanimate thing here. Death has no life, it is personified. What is personification here? Giving life to inanimate things. John Donne ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, death, be not proud. ನೀನು ಗರ್ವ ಪಡಬೇಡ, ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಪಡಬೇಡ. And he says that death is given life. According to the poem, John Donne has given life to inanimate things. ಜೀವ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವ ವಸ್ತುಗೆ ಜೀವ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. It is personified. This could be asked in your question. Though some have called, he says some, not all, some have called you mighty and dreadful. You're very powerful. You're very mighty, dreadful. You're fearful. And he says that most of the men and women, men in general, right? He says they might have feared you. Everyone is afraid of death except John Donne here. John Donne says, I am not afraid. I ain't afraid of you. And he goes on, for thou art not so. For your art, not so. He says that people might think that you are fearful, dreadful, scary, powerful, and they are afraid of you. But don't be proud. He says, for those whom thou think thou dost overthrow. I'm just giving you a plain explanation here, not in detail explanation, whatever is required. I'm just giving you whatever is required here. He says, for those whom thou, again you think is thou, you does overthrow. He is saying, for those whom, for those who are afraid of you, you will come. Those who are thinking about you, you will come and you will overthrow. Not take away, overthrow. The words are carefully chosen. And the word says, those who are thinking about you, yes, it is like you suddenly come and give them a shock. Before they could know what is happening, you will come and overthrow them. You will take their place. He says, overthrow is very important here. He's not taking away, but he's overthrowing. There is a life. Yes, imagine there is a person. This is the person and this is the death. This death comes and overthrows. It takes away. It is not taking away along with it. It comes and occupies the place of life here. Death, permanent solution for life, death. And he says, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. And he says, you can't kill me. Die not, poor death. He is mocking at death. He says, die not. Don't die, poor death. You're going to live forever. A sort of is giving. You're going to take away the lives from others. And he says, poor death. Not the mighty death. First of all, he told mighty and dreadful. Now he is saying poor death. The paradox. I told you opposite of it. First he praises a sort of like, telling, here he comes. But what a pity person you are. He says, you are a pity person. Nor yet can't thou kill me. He says, you cannot kill me. For rest and sleep, from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure. He says, from rest and sleep. Rest and sleep are the two pleasure-giving things for a human being. Which but thy pictures be. This is the picture. Thy, your picture. there are two types of death. One is when you sleep temporarily. One is when you sleep permanently. And he is talking about the temporary sleep here. Rest and sleep. Much pleasure, which gives much pleasure here. Then from thee, much more must flow. He goes on saying, this temporary sleep is not enough for you. This temporary sleep and rest is not the end of death. It has to exceed. It has to cross over. It has to move on even more. And soonest our best men will thee do go. He says, those people, soonest are best man or men. Best men, who are the best men here? It could be the best out of best. It could be the soldiers. It could be the fighters. It could be anybody who is strong. It could be anybody who is intelligent for that matter. See, this poem or any poem could be interpreted in your own way. The best man has no limits. The word says the best men or best man. For that matter, it could be anybody. And men is a common gender here. That doesn't mean even the women are exceptional. He is comparing, he is just taking all the gender in common comparison, and he says, the best men. With thee, you do, they have to go along with you. You will take away them. Rest of their bones and souls delivery. And soonest, he says, the soonest our best men with you do go. You're going to take away them along with you. And rest. Rest is what? What is the meaning of rest here? Rest could be interpreted in two ways. Rest is permanently resting here. Rest their bones. I'm telling you, it depends on the reader's perception. Rest their bones is temporary sleep. When you're exhausted, tired, you come and sleep. Rest their bones. I told you, it is temporary sleep and permanent sleep. Rest their bones and souls delivery. Soul's delivery. Now he is talking about the true death, the literal death. The soul's delivery. Delivery has two meanings here. The soul's delivery would be where the body lies underground and the soul is delivered to something else. Afterlife. John Donne is talking about biblical reference here. What is this biblical reference? You can also talk about rebirth or life after death. Just like Jesus, the Christ, he had to sleep just to attain the life after his death and to live longer. He is living, he is alive today amongst millions of people in their hearts. And he says, soul's delivery, soul is delivered, right? After death. The soul has no death. And delivery could be where a woman gives birth. And he moves on and tells, thou art slave to fate. Thou art you. You are slave. You are slave to fate. You are not individual or independent, which means that you are the slave of fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. Beautifully told. This single line could be asked for quotes, annotation. I'm telling you, annotation. This is a beautiful line. For that matter, they can ask you any line, but this is very prominent. Now, he is telling, my dear death, you are not independent. You are not free-willed. You cannot go and kill people as you want. Think about it. He says, you are the slave of fate. Fate is also personified here. Fate, chance, death, all of these concepts are personified here, given life. Fate, what is fate? Each and every individual is controlled by fate. It's our fate. If we go right, it's my luck. If we go bad, it's my fate. It's our fate. And chance. Chance of what? Living and dying. All of us have chance to live, and we also have chance to kill ourselves. So you are not free-willed. You are the slave of fate, chance, and kings. Even the king and the desperate men. What is this desperate? Not in a bad way. He says desperate men, the men or any man or woman for that matter, who thinks of killing oneself, desperate of ending the life. If a person thinks about, let us imagine there is person X and there is person Y. Correct? And person X has met with an accident and his willpower is so strong that he wants to live. And he happens to live. At that point of time, this death cannot kill this man. He is not desperate to kill himself. But there is person Y who wants to kill himself, who is absolutely fine, but fickle-minded, who wants to kill himself. At that point of time, death becomes slave. That is the reason he mentions slave. To all of fate, chance, kings, and desperate men who want to kill oneself, and thus with poison. Poisoning oneself. War and sickness dwell. So how do they kill themselves? Kings. He talks about kings. King and queen and soldiers will be taken away. They will lose their lives in the war. And how will death occupy? And how will the death become slave here? With poison, one who poisons self, one who kills himself, maybe hanging or poisoning himself. The war. King and queen, the soldiers, the family, the royal patronage, everything collapses. So you are the slave, and sickness dwell. Is it only because men decide to kill himself or themselves? No. Even where there is sickness, dwell is where there is sickness, existence. So you have to wait for your chance. You can't go on killing everybody as you wish. You don't have a free will. You are controlled. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well. Now he is saying, Jonathan says, do you think that you are the only one who can make us sleep? You think you are going to make us sleep forever? Now he says, and poppy. And poppy are a sort of a leaves. It is a opium. Right? Leaves which are used to make opium, drugs. And he says, consuming poppy or charms, magical spell, magic charms, can make us sleep as well. Now he is saying, you are not the only one who can make us sleep. Even this drugs, consumption of drugs and magical charms can make us sleep as well. And better than thy stroke. Now we are saying, thy stroke, your stroke. And this sleep he is comparing to above line, which is taking drugs, consuming drugs. And he says, consuming drugs can give us the better sleep than yours. He says, better than what? Consuming drugs. Your stroke here. What is a stroke here? Stroke is sudden death. Stroke could also mean the fatal death by the sword, right? It could be the fatal death of committing suicide. It is planned death, whatever it might be. or whether it is fate, recorded, pre-recorded, that you are going to die on this particular day, on this particular spot, on this particular minute, and this particular dress worn. And you are going to die in this style. Who knows? Everything is pre-recorded, fate. But compared to all those permanent deaths, this sleep, temporary sleep, by consuming opium, gives us better sleep, and it is better. Superb. So what can give us better sleep? It is consumption of opium or charms, which can give us better sleep. Why swell thou then? Why are you just thinking that you are the greatest? When you cannot give us the pleasure that we get when we consume opium or poppy, or when we talk about charms, then why are you so egoistic? Why are you just praising yourself? Don't. You are not so great. He says, you. Why? Why do you think that you are so egoistic? Or why do you think that you are so powerful? Don't think. You are not so powerful now. In the first beginning lines, think about it. Mighty and strong and scared. But now you are nothing. He is decoding all those feelings. Remember, during 17th century, there was a plague. And looking at those sufferings, John Donne might have composed this poem. And remember, plague is not a deadly disease anymore. There is a lot of cure, a lot of medicine. But during those days, if plague strikes any population, the entire population would be dead. The sufferings. And he talks about it. Why are you so egoistic? Why are you so arrogant? Why are you so proud? He says, one short sleep past, we wake eternally. Now he is talking about Jesus Christ. He says, one short sleep past. Very short sleep. What is this? Short sleep. In most of the religions in the world, they believe in afterlife or reincarnation, taking life after death or having birth after death. So he compares that one short sleep, we die this second. Imagine, according to some religions, you just die this second, and the very next minute, your soul is leaving your body. It's going to leave your body and it's going to go to heaven or hell, depending on your karma, depending on your doings in present life. And then you will take punishment, and then you go to become some other life. Yes, even in Christianity. Let us talk about Christianity, since he is a Christian and he talks about Christianity, biblical reference. And now he says, soon after the short sleep past, done, we wake eternally. Eternally, we now or then, soon after we die, and then soon after that, we live eternally. No death at all. We are not going to die anymore, just like Christ. He says, just like Jesus Christ had to die, he had to undergo all these sufferings. Remember, Jesus was crucified. He was just hung on plus mark, right? He was given severe pain, sickness. He had to die of thirst. He had to die without food, hunger. And now he lives eternally. Do you think there is death for Jesus Christ today? No. He lives throughout. How long? As long as the last living being or last living Christian who lives on this planet, or the last person who believes in Jesus Christ. He says that is eternity. Eternally, and death shall be no more. Beautifully told, one or the other day, we all of us are going to die. We die each and every one of us. And when there is no life left on planet Earth, death, thou shalt die. Death, even you are going to die. You are the end of all of us, and someday you are going to find the end of yourself too. You're going to die yourself because you don't have any rights, you don't have any power to kill any living creature. No existence of life at all. It is sort of a doomsday where the world comes to an end. Death, be not proud. This is the simple explanation that I could give. I've just given what could be required for first semester students, not in detailed explanation. Now, let us move on to previous year's questions. What can give man better sleep than death here? It is consuming poppy, right? Taking opium, poppy or charms. Charms can give a man a better sleep than death. Remember, in one marker question, you have to read the poem line by line. You have to get the in detail explanation. Maybe even more if you want to score 100% or want to score 80 out of 80 in your semester examination. Is death personified in the poem? Yes or no? Yes, of course, it is given life. It is considered as a person. This is for 1 mark each, and this is for 5 marks. Annotations, I have told you. For those whom thou thinkst thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet can you kill me. Now he is telling, right? You can't kill. And you have to annote this. How do you annote? You may have a doubt. Sir, we are in first semester and we don't have any idea how to annote it. Very first thing what you have to do is, I'm just giving you what we see as an evaluator, but you can always improve your answers in your examination. First thing, you have to write about the poet. Who is the author here or the poet? It is John Donne, and I have already given you the background of the poem. So think about it. Store this in your mind. This is sonnet 10 poem, right? The 10th sonnet out of 19 sonnets he has written, and this is a metaphysical poem. He talks about intellectual or intelligent concepts, personification. He talks about a lot of images, lot of complicated concepts. And then you write about this quote. This quote talks about the context. What is the context there? First you write about poet, and then you write about poem, this poem, and then you come to the main point here. You go on explaining in detail, take up each and every word, or else you can just write, this is the simple meaning of it in 2 lines. Just write, this is what it means. It means that death is personified, and he says that death can overthrow anybody, and poor death, he is just mocking at him. Mocking at whom? Death. And nor yet can't thou kill me. John Donne could not be killed because he has a life after death. He believes in life after death. And then you go on writing at least a paragraph or 2 for 5 marks is more than enough. But whatever you write should be valid. It should make sense. You cannot write the entire summary. You should know how well to write it. You're going to explain only these 2 lines, and you're going to talk about your own viewpoints and how many lines should contain. Your viewpoints should not exceed more than 2 or 3 lines. You have the rights to express your viewpoint as well as a reader. Next one is 10 marker question. Bring out the central theme of the poem, Death Be Not Proud. What is the central theme here? What is the theme? It is about decoding death, the feelings about death. It is about not feeling scared about death. The central theme is death be not proud. The central theme is, here John Donne says Don't be proud about yourself. It is personified, and he goes on telling it is not free-willed. It has no authority to kill anybody it wishes. It has to wait for its opportunity. So whatever explanation I have given, you can just write it. But the way you write is very important. If you want to score marks, this is the tips for those students who find it really difficult to answer in examination. You have to write about, very first thing, you have to write about the poet. Kindly know the poets. There are only 5 poems. So kindly know the poets. Write about poet. If you can just surf in Google and get more information, well and good. It should not exceed more than 3 or 4 lines. And then you talk about background of the poem, sonnet 10, whatever I have referred it here, include it. And then you start writing about the central theme. Central theme is not to be proud, where the poet is asking death not to feel proud. Why and how the concept of death is explained, described or viewed from the poet should be explained. And then at the end you can give your viewpoint. And if you have any doubts, how many lines or how many paragraphs to write for 10 marks? What is the amount of words, or how many words or how many paragraphs should we write? Sir, you have to write at least 4 paragraphs which is meaningful. Don't write anything that you have written or rewrite it. Don't do that. I have seen lot of students doing it. Bardidane baritare, rewriting it again and again, overwriting it. No, don't do it. Just try to think about it. Try to think without thinking, without reading the poem, without understanding the poem in your angle. It is very difficult to attempt 10 marker question, I'm telling you. You have the rights to explain it in your perspective, but whatever is seen by the poet's eyes or poet's view should be first written. Only then you are eligible to write your viewpoints. Meanwhile, you can also include, this is how the poet might have looked. You can express, I think this could be the perception of the poet. You can include in between while writing the answer here. So that is it for today's session. I am going to meet you in my next session with the next poem. Be ready. Keep reading. Until then, have a good day. Take care.